TBC Anniversary has gotten some pretty big news over the past week or so, and one of the more impactful pieces of information we've gotten is concerning the level 58 boost that's coming on January 13th in the pre-patch. Before this recent news, the boost was only available as part of the Outland Epic Pack, an $80 bundle that also includes some other things like mounts and cosmetics. It's now been announced that the level 58 character boost is going to be available as a standalone purchase as well, and contrary to previous statements made by Blizzard, the boost can be applied to the new Blood Elf and Draenei races. This is a huge deal already, and on top of that, it also sounds like players are not going to be limited to just one boost per account like it was back in 2021. At the time of this video, I have yet to see an explicit confirmation that multiple boosts can be purchased on the same account, but from what I have seen, I'm at least 80% confident that we will be allowed to buy more than one. Regardless of whether or not we can swipe our credit cards for an army of alts, I do know that we're definitely going to be able to buy at least one boost. So that got me thinking, what class would be the best one to boost? I suppose that depends on a lot of different factors. Some players might already have a max level character that they plan on sticking with, while others might be boosting a different class for the new expansion. Since there isn't one clear answer that's best for everyone, I tried to think of the most common goals players might have for their boosted characters, and I settled on three main answers. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what I think would be the best class to boost as an alt or secondary character, the best class for solo players who plan on doing a lot of pugging, and the best class for casual players who aren't worried about min-maxing and just want to hop right in and play the game. Up first, we have my pick for the best class to boost as an alt, and just to clarify, what I mean by that is what class has the highest potential to be the most useful as an alt, and for me that class is the Druid. Druids have gotten a major glow up moving into TBC and can viably be played in all four distinct roles. Raid groups will love having a feral on hand who can off-tank certain bosses, and boomkins are always needed for their innervate. The mages will love you. Resto Druids also bring great utility with their innervate and battle res, and they're considered one of the best PvP healers in arena comps as well. Overall, the Druid brings something useful to the table in all of their specs across all different types of content, so if you aren't already playing a Druid as your main, having one as an alt opens up a lot of possibilities for you, but that's not the only reason I'd choose this class as the most useful alt. Druids have a lot of useful features as a class outside of just typical PvP and PvE content. They get Flight Form, which is especially nice if you have gathering professions. You can just zip around mining and herbing without having to take the time to mount up after each node. Also, since they have both a tank spec and a stealth spec, there are a ton of gold making opportunities doing stealth farms or just farming old dungeons to disenchant or vendor the loot. So if you're looking to boost a character to play a different role from your main, to fill potential holes in your guild's raid roster, or if you're just looking to do some gold farming on the side, the Druid is undoubtedly the most useful class you can boost in TBC Anniversary. Up next, we have my pick for the best class to boost as a solo player. And when I say solo player, I'm not talking about players who never do any group content. Rather, what I'm talking about is players who may not have a guild or friend group they're playing with, but still want to do content by running with pugs. So maybe it's more accurate to call this the best class to boost for pugging, but anyway, I'll get to the point. My pick for this category is going to be the Shaman. Now, I know the Shaman stocks took a slight hit with the raid-wide Bloodlust change in this version of TBC Classic, but Shamans are still arguably the most stacked class in every raid group due to just how much value they bring from their totems. Totems are still group-specific, not raid-wide, so every pug is going to want to bring at least one Shaman per group in the raid. As far as what spec you should play, Resto Shamans are widely considered the most OP healers throughout most of the expansion, and for DPS, both Elemental and Enhancement can produce some solid numbers, even if they aren't constantly topping the charts. But your main focus as a DPS Shaman is going to be making sure your totems are up and in range of the group at all times. Now that we know you should be able to find a raid spot without too much effort, let's talk about some of the other benefits of playing a Shaman. Thanks to having dual spec, you have the option to heal or DPS in normal and heroic dungeons, and between enhancement and elemental specs, you can choose whether you prefer to play a melee DPS or a caster, which is more variety than most classes get, so that's a big plus in my book. In PvP, Shamans are not considered an S-tier arena class, but they can still do very well in both arenas and battlegrounds with how bursty they can be, not to mention having Bloodlust is a huge benefit to you and your allies. So if you're a player who's more of a lone wolf or can't commit to a regular raid schedule every week, and you want to boost a class that's fun, does well across different types of content, and won't be a nightmare to get invited to pugs with, Shaman is the class I would most recommend for you to boost in TBC Anniversary. And finally, we have my pick for the best class to boost for casual players. For this one, I'm thinking of the dads out there who just want to have fun raiding with their guild every week and don't have time or aren't really interested in min-maxing and being fully optimized at all times. I think the best class to boost for this type of player would be the Hunter. Hunters are a great DPS class to play in TBC. Their incredible single target damage and defensive utility make them an asset to any group in both dungeon and raid content. They have a lot of mobility, they're an easy class to pick up and do well with in most situations, and Hunters are considered to be one of the least gear dependent classes as well, so missing a few best in slot gear pieces shouldn't drop you too far down on the DPS chart. As a pet class, questing and leveling out in the world is so much more forgiving than a lot of other classes, and that means Hunters can also be very efficient while leveling from 60 to 70 with very little downtime. In PvP, Hunters are a solid class to play in battlegrounds and open world PvP, but when it comes to arenas, they do tend to require a lot more effort and skill in order to perform well. Overall, for a casual gamer who doesn't want the responsibility of tanking or healing and just wants to have fun with the boys a few nights a week, you really can't go wrong boosting a Hunter. So yeah, those are my top 3 picks for what I'd recommend boosting for TBC Anniversary. But before I wrap up the video, I'd like to give honorable mentions to a few other classes that would still be great picks. First, the Paladin. This is a great pick if you're looking to tank in TBC. They're basically gods of AoE threat and will be in high demand especially for dungeon groups. Also, Ret is finally a viable spec to play in TBC, so that's neat as well. Next, if you're looking to boost a class to PvP with, you really can't go wrong with the Rogue. It's an S-tier hero class when it comes to arenas and just PvP fights in general. But make sure to secure yourself a raid spot for Black Temple early, because everyone's going to want to get their hands on those Warglaives ASAP. And finally, the last honorable mention I have here is for the Warlock. Warlock is great for a lot of the same reasons as the Hunter. It's got great raid DPS potential with an easy to learn rotation, basically just spamming Shadow Bolt till the boss dies. And they have great utility as well, and some of the coolest tier sets in the expansion, but the reason I went with the Hunter as my best casual pick is that Warlocks will have a bit more competition for caster gear and raid spots, but Warlock is still a great choice if you want to boost a caster. As a side note, I've seen a decent number of people say they're changing their mains from Warlock to Mage now that the Phase 1 raids are going to be released in their post-nerf state, but keep in mind just how much support an Arcane Mage needs to get that top DPS spot. Do you know for sure that your raid group will have a Druid to innervate you and a Shadow Priest in your group to help with mana? Sure, Arcane Mages will probably outperform Warlocks on Warcraft logs with the new post-nerf meta, but unless you know you have all your ducks in a row as Arcane, I would still stick with the Warlock. And that just about wraps things up for this video. Of course, these have all just been my own subjective opinions, and there really isn't a wrong choice when deciding what class makes the most sense for you to boost. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, and let me know what class, if any, you ended up using a boost on. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe for more content in the future, and until next time, see ya!